Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. A Hay River family is in mourning tonight, grieving the loss of Daryl Sabourin. He died suddenly at the University of Alberta Hospital in Edmonton earlier this month. His brother says Sabourin went to the hospital for help, but instead he ended up dead. Carla Ulrich has the story.
Tim Dunham says his brother Daryl Sabourin struggled with alcohol abuse, but says he was trying to get his life back on track in the last several months. The father of four was sending out resumes to get a camp job and checked himself into the Edmonton hospital to detox.
He said, "Okay, brother, I'll talk to you in a day or two." I was going to go check on him the next day, but unfortunately I woke up to a doctor calling me at like 6 in the morning.
Dunham says the doctor told him that Sabourin got into an altercation with a security guard when he asked to switch rooms because his roommate was making him uncomfortable. Dunham said he was told the security guard told Sabourin to go back to his room, and that's when the altercation started.
The doctor told me that the guard got a hold of him, pinned him down, and he was squirming. They only got off of him because he stopped moving. So when they got up, they realized that he wasn't breathing or anything. He was just lifeless.
Dunham says he wants to know why and how it escalated to the point of death and if anyone tried to save his brother. So far, all he's been told is that they are investigating. Alberta Health Services say they will review the incident and work with the family to answer any questions they might have. The Edmonton Police Services says it is aware of the incident and it remains under investigation. A funeral was held for Daryl Sabourin in Hay River yesterday. Carla Ulrich, CBC News, Fort Smith.
The Council of Yukon First Nations is speaking out in support of plans for a new territorial health authority. Yesterday, CYFN passed a resolution in favor of the recently tabled Health Authority Act. The co-chair of the committee overseeing the transition says the new health authority will help eliminate anti-Indigenous racism in the healthcare system.
First Nations are looking at this legislation. What does it mean to them? What it means is that they can see an end to a system which frustrates them. They can see an end to a system which in some cases results in people choosing not to go for care because they cannot navigate it.
The Health Authority Act was tabled in the Yukon Legislative Assembly last week. It sets out the legal framework to create the Yukon's first health authority. First Nations helped the Yukon government create the bill. The new health authority would require mandatory staff training for cultural sensitivity and provide services in Indigenous languages. And Nunavut's health department has issued an advisory for people who flew from Iqaluit to Rankin Inlet on March 9th. The department says there's a confirmed case of whooping cough in a passenger who traveled on Canadian North Flight 4119. It wants people to monitor for symptoms, particularly those who are seated in rows 1 to 4. Those symptoms include a cough that lasts longer than a week and gets worse at night, trouble breathing, and a high fever that lasts more than 3 days. The Iqaluit Humane Society is reporting a surge in cases of parvovirus. It says up to 12 cases have been detected over the past month. This is an increase from the average case count. Usually one case is detected every 2 months. The disease is only found in dogs and it can be fatal, particularly in puppies. Symptoms include a lack of appetite, vomiting, and bloody diarrhea. The Iqaluit Humane Society says the disease is most often passed through feces that are left on the ground.
Loose dogs are a big source of dog poop around town, and also just people not picking up after their pets. Quite often you will see outside homes, there'll just be lots of dog poops. Maybe their own house dog is going out and just pooping in the front yard. The problem is other people are walking their dogs around, and loose dogs are getting exposed to that.
An Iqaluit bylaw requires pet owners to pick up their animals' feces. If they don't, they could be fined $200. Protests by angry commercial fishermen have forced the Newfoundland and Labrador government to postpone the delivery of its budget. Terry Roberts has the details.
They arrived in darkness before 6 this morning. Hundreds of angry seafood harvesters and their supporters, first easily passing through a police checkpoint, then up the steps of Confederation Building.
Everybody on this side is going to take a walk with me. Everybody on this side is going to hang out here.
From there, they peeled off in smaller groups, blocking building entrances, preventing thousands of public servants from going to work. 6:25, the first flare-up. Some protesters made a dash for a rear entrance, the same entrance used by politicians. They were met by police, including the RNC's mounted unit. For about 2 hours, a fragile calm. Even the police chief was on the front line, while some workers were upset by the interruption.
So today, when people are on open line complaining about how they didn't get through the government, that's on your shoulders. You're a selfish group of individuals. Have a nice day. Have a nice day.
"8:20, the RNC tries to open a corridor into the building for a group of workers. Some protesters strike and pull at the horses. It's not clear if any of the workers made it through the gauntlet, including some of the province's top bureaucrats. The protesters held the line, and the police eventually backed off. But not before this man, Shoe Cove fisherman Richard Martin, was injured. A broken hip, it was later reported. He was taken away by ambulance. And so was this police officer, also injured in the melee. Then another ugly incident. A senior aide to the premier was pushed back as she tried to enter the building. The fireworks comes just weeks before the opening of the annual crab harvest, the province's most important fishery. Harvesters say they've been pushed into a corner, that a small number of processing companies wield too much power, telling them when they can fish and who they can sell to. The uprising is being led by this man.
We want our business back in our own hands. Period.
Harvesters want to see more processing licenses issued. They want restrictions lifted on some plants that have a cap on how much they can buy. And they want to be able to sell their catch to companies in the Maritimes.
We're not in here joking around. We just want to get this fixed once and for all and be treated like every other industry, in Canada.
Something happened today that have never happened before in the history of Newfoundland. The budget was cancelled.
That story from the CBC's Terry Roberts in St. John's, Newfoundland. The RCMP has launched an investigation after several subcontractors apparently double or triple billed the federal government for work they did. Today, officials say it cost taxpayers $5 million, and it seems the problem may be widespread. Kate McKenna reports.
Canada's Minister of Procurement defending a system that allowed subcontractors to bill multiple departments for the same work repeatedly.
Until now, there has not been any sign that this was due to mismanagement within the federal government.
Government officials say an internal review found 3 subcontractors are believed to have double billed 36 government departments between 2018 and 2022 at a cost of $5 million.
This has impacted dozens of departments. The overbilling, therefore, was made in a manner that took advantage of the fact that until recently, when everything was done on paper, until recently it was difficult for departments to coordinate and to share that information.
And there could be more cases coming. A federal government official speaking on background says today's announcement is the first wave of fraudulent billing cases the department has identified, with more expected to be announced in the coming months. This is the latest series of questions about mismanagement in the public service. Last month, the Auditor General found the final cost of the federal ArriveCan app is impossible to determine because of poor government record keeping.
The $60 million Arrive scam is just the tip of the iceberg. We now learn that there are $5 million in additional fraud that has been identified by the Department of Public Procurement.
The situation is obviously unacceptable, which is why authorities are looking into this procurement process. Anyone who took advantage of our COVID response to save Canadian lives should face consequence.
Today, the federal government announced it's looking to tighten its rules and create an office intended to stop fraud in procurement. It's also working to get that $5 million back. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
A new scam has surfaced that targets frustrated air travelers. It involves fraudsters that troll social media posing as airline customer service representatives. Brett Ruskin explains.
Imagine that you're trying to catch a flight and it's not going well. There are delays. Perhaps your baggage has been lost. You've tried calling your airline. You've tried going to the help desk. Nothing seems to be working. So last resort, you reach out on social media and great news. One of the airline's employees reaches out, offers help, says that you deserve compensation for your inconvenience. Their profile picture is the airline's logo. Their description says that they're a supervisor or even a manager for the airline. They only have a few followers, though, a little bit suspicious. Then they ask you for your booking reference. They ask you for a bit more details, saying that all you need to do is click on a link or download a certain app or visit a certain website, perhaps provide some banking details, and you can have your money sent to you. That is how this scam works. You might think, well, who might be able to be caught up in this type of scam? Here's one of those travelers.
I was social media aware enough to look at their profiles and realized that even though they had the Air Canada logo, they had, saying that they were supervisors, that they didn't have any followers. So that triggered some alarm bells for me. When you have flight cancellations and you have these stressful situations, individuals are just willing to, have anyone help them that they can.
And so in that specific case, the scammers told her that she should be compensated $1,500. All she needed to do to get her money was to download a money exchange app and ask for her funds in Kenyan shillings. Then they'll be transferred and become Canadian dollars. That's when she knew it was a scam and cut off communication with the scammers. Now, what do the airlines think about all of this? Keep in mind, it couldn't affect any airline. Air Canada specifically says that they are looking at, and they have been looking for, these fake accounts, reporting them, flagging them. They take this very seriously. They say anyone should watch for that authentication check mark and to ensure that there's kind of an appropriate number of followers, not just a handful. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, Halifax.
What do I like? I like open fires, moonlit nights, chatty letters, rainy days. I like daydreaming. I love this colorful little island of ruby, emerald, and sapphire. Yet often my dark moods come. I'm possessed body and soul by this depression. They say women shouldn't write. Some days I almost give up. But I cannot contain my imagination. I made Anne real. I gave her my love of nature, my love of books, and my childhood dreams. My greatest happiness would be to climb the alpine path and write upon it a woman's humble name.
Lucy Maud Montgomery battled depression, rejection, and sexism to become known around the world for Anne of Green Gables and 19 other novels.
1940 dallalaw 50 saling luwang kalawak tungan. Jamak tuwalo lakalawak Pilagtok talo ama. Wakalaw yalawak sumatan sibulak pak pilagtok taw ama. Pilagta si malak sumigilak tawalak sumigama.
Priya doesn't love exercising, but loves the way it makes her feel. Max doesn't love cooking, but loves homemade meals with his kids. Paul doesn't love doing his taxes, but loves getting the benefits and credits he qualified for. Learn more about benefits and credits like the GST HST credit and Canada Workers Benefit at canada.ca/every dollar counts. A message from the Government of Canada.
Hey, you're some friends, aren't you? You stand here and now you try and blackmail her. You disgust me. Every one of you.
Coronation Street. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Bad hair days. We all have them.
Even as scientists. I think I know my place. It's not making art.
What? This is a whale?
That's incredible.
I'm piloting a boat in the fjords of Norway. I love this job.
You never listen to me.
You never think things through.
Your honeymoon phase is officially over. We never had a honeymoon phase.
You really gonna make me say it?
Oh, yeah.
Fine. I need you, Max.
So much drama. I love it. You're tired of that? Stop. Get tired of that.
Someone broke into my gym locker, stole my hearing aid. I feel naked without my hearing aid. And my clothes. Didn't catch up. It's about the body hair, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot.
Yesterday was the first day of spring, but for many around the world, the warm weather came early this year. That may seem appealing on the surface, but as Susan Ormiston explains, the extreme temperatures could mean big trouble for the planet and some of its smallest creatures.
I would like to see the whole box full of bees.
If you're a honeybee, you like warmth.
And they're clustered together there to conserve the heat.
The wildly mild winter could be a good thing, but not when temperatures swing, hovering near 0 degrees this week in Guelph, way down from last week's spring spike over 20 degrees.
If it's really warm, they almost get tricked into building up their colony strength too early. And then when we get cold weather like this, it damages the colony. It's kind of like fruit trees going into bloom and then having cold weather can damage the fruit tree.
Unusual early heat, ocean warmth still breaking records, Antarctic ice melting, all indicators, says the world's meteorological organization.
The year 2023 set new records for every single climate indicator.
On this, the first day of spring 2024 is shaping up warmer, but
we cannot be completely certain about what will happen at the end of 2024.
Scientists do predict this year will join a 9-year streak of the world's warmest years. What's certain, it won't be a new normal.
We haven't cut our emissions anything like enough to stabilize temperatures at this new normal, right? So that means that it's going to keep on going.
Globally, the WMO is sending a red alert.
We should tackle this all together. Otherwise, we are all lost.
Even beekeepers are having to adapt.
In there, we can create a winter that's the same every year.
Helping weakened hives inside, no bright light.
Some of them are indoors, some of them are outdoors. This spreads the risk out.
To keep mortality down, 20% of its bees didn't survive the winter, possibly a parasite.
That's our number one problem, and it is exacerbated by climate change.
Susan Ormiston, CBC News, Guelph.
Spring also means the end of some winter roads in the north and the beginning of others. For the winter road in Fort Chipewyan, the end of the season is fast approaching. It is set to close next week, March 26th. The municipality of Wood Buffalo is reminding people that once the road is closed, it is strictly prohibited and dangerous to use it. In the Sawtooth, the NWT Department of Infrastructure is telling people that Friday is the last day resupply vehicles should be on the winter road due to forecasted weather conditions. But in Wequity, the winter road season hasn't even started yet. Historically, that road opens in mid-March. Last year, it opened on March 20th. No date yet for when it might open this year. Out east, the St. Lawrence River has the lowest amount of ice cover ever observed. Less than 10% of the river has frozen over. This is just the 6th time in 150 years that this waterway has been deemed ice-free. In January, researchers reported that ice was slow to form on the river. That delay was worse than expected. Only the banks of the river had some ice at that time, thanks to the warm, rainy weather the month before. In British Columbia, renters are facing the highest costs in Canada. And with fewer affordable places available, those stuck in the housing crisis are becoming desperate. As Yvette Bren shows us, some are getting creative in order to find a home.
In this freezer, I believe we have 7 or 6 of them now.
Hudson and Jackson Forsyth Beck sold pickles and produce they grew in the front yard of the rental home that they're now about to lose. Their family has been evicted.
We eventually had a flow of customers, and they just kept coming and coming. We just got bigger and bigger.
If anybody has any solutions.
Their dad posted a video begging for freezer space to save all this food while he hunts for a new family home.
It's almost a full-time job looking for a place. We don't have the room to store it. What are we going to do?
Dozens of applications later, he's left in line with 100 others to pay double or triple his current rent.
I've been pretty stressed and worried.
Housing experts say this family isn't alone. In the past 2 years in Canada, rent rose an average of $384 a month. Metro Vancouver had the country's highest average monthly rent for a one-bedroom in February at $2,653.
It breaks my heart to hear, like, I have to advertise to see if someone will welcome me into their rental and let me pay an exorbitant amount of money for a one-bedroom. A younger demographic is working hard, and their hard work isn't paying off like it used to.
People desperate to find rentals are posting pleas.
You need to stand out of the crowd. I just want to try different ways to get attraction, like a spotlight on us.
It starts to make a lot
Skyrocketing rental rates don't help.
The competition is stiff. There's a lot of competition.
The irony isn't lost on this custom home builder that he's creating homes and can't even find a rental he can afford.
You know, sometimes I struggle with what I'm doing for work. Am I part of the problem or am I part of the solution? But, you know, you have to make money to survive.
A moment of peace before it's back to the grind of finding shelter. Yvette Bren, CBC News, Vancouver.
Today is World Happiness Day. The latest World Happiness Report puts Canada in the top 20 of happiest nations. That's ahead of the US, but behind several Scandinavian countries. The report also highlights a growing divide in happiness between younger and older people. Marianne Demain takes us through it.
Many experts say there is a list of factors contributing to the unhappiness of this younger group, those who are 30 years of age and younger. Things like uncertainty around the economy, the lack of affordable housing, all different factors that are contributing to this feeling of hopelessness and unhappiness compared to those who are older, specifically those who are 60 years of age and older who appear to be much happier. And that's quite a shift from the past 15 years when the younger group were actually happier than those older. One researcher who was also the study editor says some parts of the world children are already experiencing the equivalent of a midlife crisis. The U.S. Surgeon General also likened social media use in youth to the equivalent of having children in cars that have no safety features and driving on roads with no speed limits, because social media, according to experts, is also a contributing factor to just why this younger group is feeling increasingly unhappy right now. Here's more on what keeps people happy.
I consider myself a happy person, even though stressed with school and stuff. I still feel grateful for breathing every day and just waking up and exploring and going out with my friends.
I focus on meaning and purpose over happiness. I find happiness and sadness is kind of a sliding scale. They're always going to be temporary.
I spend my time with people that also make me feel really happy and encourage them to do the same.
The World Happiness Report looked at how happy people were in more than 140 countries around the world over the past 3 years. And many say that looking at this younger group who appear to be increasingly unhappy should highlight the need for immediate action when it comes to policy.
So wealth is one thing, but then there's also a healthy life expectancy, which is also very high in Scandinavian countries, whereas in other wealthy countries like the United States, life expectancy is actually coming down for certain segments of the population. And then finally, something that where the Scandinavian countries really stand out, we find, is in terms of the social fabric, social capital of their society.
For the 7th year in a row, Finland is the #1 country for happiness, in part thanks to low corruption and free health care. It was followed by Denmark and Iceland. Canada is ranked at number 15, the U.S. at 23. Important to note that none of the world's largest countries were ranked among the happiest. Marianne Demain, CBC News, Toronto.
that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a good night.
My dad was a railway porter. It was just about the only job a black man could get. But he had big plans for us. Music would be our ticket out of poverty. I knew we couldn't afford that piano, so I practiced twice as hard.
Nice, Stacy. Okay, Oscar, let's hear it.
Turns out, I wasn't half bad. Then I found jazz, or it found me. It wasn't all easy, though. I faced a lot of hate, but I found my stage. They call me the man with 4 hands. Well, I don't know about that, but let's see how far this ticket takes me.
From Montreal to Carnegie Hall and far beyond, Oscar Peterson became one of the most recorded and celebrated jazz musicians of all time.
When my grandfather, Charlie Chaplin, first arrived in Hollywood, it was a place of dreams. But my grandfather clashed with some very powerful forces in America.
Are you a member of the Communist Party? Stand away from the stand!
I'm Una Chaplin. This is Hollywood Exiles. It's about a war of ideas that tore apart friendships, ended careers, and affected families like mine.
Hollywood Exiles, available now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Do lonely people eat more cereal? Can love help us live longer?
I feel alive!
Does heartbreak make music better?
I love this music.
Could AI compose the next masterpiece of our time?
Robot composers conducting robot music.
OMG! Do you really need to wait 30 minutes after eating before swimming, even if the last thing you ate was cereal?
I'm enjoying every mouthful.
When you get curious, you get CBC.
Closing this case gets you one step closer to you getting back on the squad and keeping you out of prison.
You're not a detective. You're a con artist. You have a driver's license, right?
Of course, I have 9. If you couldn't be a cop, what would you be?
Nothing. My dad raised me to be a cop. That's who I am. Stay here.
You're adorable.
You guys are making this entire station look like a circus.
He's busy trying to solve a murder. What are you doing?
Thanks for having my back.
We got you.
This your girlfriend?
This is not my girlfriend.
She's way too cool to be your girlfriend. She's not way too cool to be my girlfriend.
Load weapon!
Welcome to the show!
Fire! Big, 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 big!
I'm from the Liberal Party, and I...
Name something that gets you more excited than hanky-panky.
Gummies.
What?
Gummies.
Family Feud Canada. Watch free on CBC Gem.